This story takes place when I was 16 years old. I had just gotten off the phone with my friend Mackenzie. She had called around 6 o'clock, asking me how I was feeling before my date with Jake. I told her that I was doing pretty good, and that I was excited but also nervous. I had never actually been on a date before, unless you count that one time in 5th grade that I held hands with Ben Fletcher. I hung up the phone and went to sit on the porch and wait for Jake. It was a warm summer afternoon, and the sun was slowly starting to set. Only a few minutes passed before I could hear footsteps coming up the wooden stairs in front of me. I looked up from my phone. "Oh God," I muttered under my breath. This wasn't Jake coming up my steps, looking to sweep me off my feet. It was my creepy neighbor, Jason. We had some classes together at school, and I would see him outside reading once in a while, but we had never really spoken that much. He stood up in front of me and awkwardly put one hand behind his neck, rubbing it up and down. "Hi, Jason. Is there something I can help you with?" I asked. He kept staring at his feet. Are you going out with Jake tonight?" he asked, still staring down at the ground. How in the world did he know that? Yeah, I am. How did you... Are you going to the lake?" he asked, cutting me off. "Jason, are you going to Sycamore Lake?" he asked. "Yes, but what? Don't go. It's not safe there. There's a demon that haunts that lake. It lives just below the water." I sighed. This was the longest I had ever spoken to this kid, and he was telling me about some stupid urban legend about a demon-infested lake. I appreciate your concern, I really do, but you know that stuff's all made up, right?" I asked. He didn't respond. Just then, I heard an engine revving as Jake's car pulled into my driveway. I stood up and said goodbye to Jason, who didn't say anything. Jake opened my door for me, and I got in, looking one last time at the scrawny young man in the black hoodie still standing on my porch. "What did that weirdo want?" Jake asked as he sat down beside me. I told him it was nothing, and we sped off towards the setting sun, down to Sycamore Lake. When we got there, it was almost fully dark. We walked around the lake, talking and sharing stories about school and our home lives. When we were done walking, we sat in a dilapidated gazebo right at the water's edge. Jake was telling me about his most recent baseball season and how he was looking forward to playing in college when something caught my eye out over the water. There was a ripple emanating outwards from the center of the lake, as if something had been dropped there. The small waves weren't spreading in a circular fashion, though. They were more in a V shape, heading right in our direction. I watched as the rippling continued to come closer. I was about to interrupt Jake when suddenly it stopped, and the water was calm once again. When he had finished his story, he looked at me expectantly. I realized I had missed half of what he had said, so I just smiled. "So, I like you a lot, Claire. I think you know that." He put one hand on my knee and one around my shoulders. I was beginning to feel uncomfortable. Thanks. I think you're great too," I said, trying to slowly move away from him. He kept his grip on me, though, and leaned even closer now. "Jake, please stop," I said, but he was already inches from my face with his own. Just then, I could hear a shout coming from the woods that surrounded the lake. "Get off of her!" It was Jason. He was standing at the edge of the trees, looking out at us with anger in his eyes. I had to guess that anger was directed at Jake. Jake let go of me and turned in the direction of Jason's voice. "What the hell is this freak doing here?" he said, standing up and walking out of the gazebo. I stood up, starting to tell Jake that he should just take me home, when suddenly he fell flat on his face. He was looking around to see what he had tripped over, when I noticed something sticking out of the water's edge. It was an arm. Jake screamed as he turned and saw the rotting hand that was holding onto his ankle. He kicked at it, but to no avail. The arm started to slowly disappear back into the water, dragging Jake along with it. I screamed and grabbed Jake's hand, trying to pull him back. It wasn't working. He just kept sliding slowly towards the water. The arm was now almost completely submerged, only the wrist and hand were still visible. Suddenly, I heard another noise over Jake's screaming. It was Jason yelling at me to pull as he bent down and grabbed Jake's other hand. We both pulled together, but it was no use. Jake kept sliding further and further into the murky water, screaming and begging for help as he went. Jason and I kept pulling until the only things coming out of the water were Jake's hands, and then even they were gone. It was eerily silent now that we could no longer hear Jake's screams. I looked over at Jason, still in a complete state of shock. "Run," he screamed, and just then I heard a splash as 10 very long fingers slowly started to appear out of the water's surface. They were too long, too gray, and too pointed to be anything human. They shimmered in the moonlight, digging into the soft earth along the shore. I bolted to my feet, and Jason and I ran back towards the tree line. We didn't stop running until we were out of the woods and to Jason's beat-up old sedan. We got in the car and locked the doors. When we were finally able to speak again, Jason told me that after I had left, he drove down to the lake, knowing that I would be in danger. He had been waiting behind a tree when he noticed whatever was in the lake swimming towards us. I hugged him and started crying as he drove us back home. It's been years since that incident happened, but now I stay away from any and all lakes, because you never know what's lurking beneath.